Hello, everyone. Kelly Boone here from Tech and Learning. Thank you for attending today's Tech and Learning Future Proofing Your District Plan conference. A special thank you to our sponsors Catch On, Classcraft, FileWave, Global Teletherapy, GradeCam, Sanford programs, and thank you to all of our association partners. Today's virtual conference is focused on taking the lessons learned from current remote learning programs to create long-term plans that support effective teaching and learning both online and in person. I want to remind everyone to log into the Conference Hub using the link sent in your confirmation email. Once logged in, you can visit a sponsor booth, learn about their offerings, and book a meeting or live chat with them. You can see your personalized agenda and network with over 1,100 of today's attendees via the registrant directory and chat features. You can access the event recordings via the download section after today's events. And also you can win prizes. So throughout the Conference Hub, you'll find several buttons to enter yourself into Passport to Prizes. Visit all of the pages of the Conference Hub using the navigation bar at the top of the page. And every time you find a button and fill in the form, you'll earn one entry into the raffle. We'll announce the winners via email at the end of the conference. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions for the presenter during the webinar, please submit them through the Zoom chat feature. Please know that we capture all questions and our presenters are happy to answer them as time permits. Today's slides and additional resources materials will be available and may be accessed within the Downloads tab of the Conference Hub. We encourage you to download any resources or links that may be useful. Be sure to use the conference hashtag #TLTTechLive in social posts today. So please join me in thanking our terrific speakers who have kindly agreed to spend time with all of us today. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us and for spending this time together. So please join me in welcoming today's presenter, Marie Izquierdo, Chief Academic Officer of Miami-Dade County Public Schools.
Miami-Dade County Public Schools has been commended nationally for its quick response to the need for a plan to provide distance learning in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. Doing so in the nation's fourth largest school district with more than 430 schools, 348,000 students, and 20,000 classroom teachers can prove to be a daunting task. Yet, despite its size, the district was able to pivot from the classroom to the cloud quite adeptly, primarily because of the support it provided its teachers and leaders during a time of crisis. My name is Marie Izquierdo, and I am the Chief Academic Officer for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Today, I will be sharing with you the approach that we took to support our teachers through distance learning. The initial success of the district's distance learning plan is a testament to its teachers and leaders as they rose to the challenge of flipping classrooms into fully digital environments while attending to the academic, personal, and emotional needs of students. The district recognized from the onset that the goal of continuity of instruction outside of the schoolhouse would rest squarely on how well it supported its teachers through, undoubtedly, the most challenging time in their professional and, in many cases, personal lives. Supporting our teachers became our North Star, and providing them guidance in a unified and consistent voice became our central mission. With the development of a comprehensive instructional continuity plan, the curating of digital assets, the launching of dedicated websites, the creation of progress monitoring reports, a helpline that was staffed by academic and instructional technology experts, and scores of both live and on-demand professional development, we strove to support our teachers so that they in turn could support our students and families during school closures. Luckily, the district had laid a good foundation as far back as 2012, when voters overwhelmingly supported a $1.2 billion general obligation bond that launched an initiative called Digital Convergence, bringing large investments in instructional technology ranging from infrastructure to Wi-Fi connectivity to devices and professional development for our teachers. This historic event is relevant because it laid a solid foundation on a road towards blended learning that is at the heart of our distance learning plan. The vision of digital convergence and those investments were instrumental in our readiness to deal with the COVID crisis and our ability to react as expeditiously as possible in standing up distance learning for our students and their families. As a result of these efforts, when the pandemic hit, the district was at a 3-to-1 student-to-computer ratio, had invested heavily in teacher instructional technology development, and despite not having a learning management system, had a suite of tools that could be leveraged to support distance learning quite effectively. Schools closed in Miami-Dade on Friday, March 13th, and over the weekend, central office staff was hard at work developing webinars that would guide teachers on how to migrate lessons to the cloud, how to harness a myriad of online tools to create their virtual classroom, how to communicate virtually with students and their families, how to facilitate accommodations for English language learners and students with disabilities, and how to keep their students safe online, to name a few. The first Instructional Continuity Plan webinar had 19,000 views in less than 48 hours, and teachers were clamoring for more. For the past 7 years, MDCPS had participated in digital convergence of its instructional routines, content, and environments. Because of this convergence, many teachers had participated in a variety of instructional technology, professional development, and initiatives, and had explored different forms of blended and flipped classrooms. For many, those experiences proved invaluable as teachers transitioned their lessons from the classroom to the cloud. In the spirit of continuity and normalcy, we asked those teachers who were already providing digital content that was standards aligned and course aligned to continue to do so, thereby allowing their students to find comfort in the routines they were already familiar with. We asked teachers to please keep as many things as they could the same, to the extent possible, returning to bell ringers, warm-ups, exit slips, and other classroom routines. We knew we had entrenched best practices, and we did not want to be so prescriptive as a district that we would derail those practices when they were already occurring. This was particularly difficult to stick to in the first couple of weeks when parents, understandably, began complaining about having to navigate multiple platforms and check different mediums to access assignments, particularly in homes with multiple children. Seemingly overnight, but really over spring break, the district developed over 40 sessions of professional development and adjusted its calendar in order to provide teachers with 2 full days of training on topics ranging from shifting to distance learning, understanding the ICP, using Microsoft Teams, our platform of choice, supporting English language learners and students with disabilities, providing mental wellness and social emotional learning, maximizing Office 365 tools, digital citizenship, and cybersecurity. Additionally, understanding that we could not possibly develop rich PD in such a short amount of time, we elicited the assistance of partners such as Microsoft, Edmodo, Nearpod, Curriculum Associates, and Discovery Education, to name a few. They helped us develop and deliver PD. Many took it a step further and developed guides for students and their families as well. Distance learning may take a variety of shapes and forms, but it is important to remember why we are diligently proceeding with and planning for distance learning during this time. Even though our hope is always to return back to our school sites in the very near future, educators are aware that extended time away from quality instruction results in students losing academic ground. In the summer, we refer to this as the summer slide. If we allow this slide to start in the spring, it would most definitely affect our students' ability to be successful in future courses and would result in instructional gaps. In our current reality of looming health threats and financial instability, virtual classroom and interaction with students and their families may be, in some instances, the only happy, safe, and normal part of their daily routine. We cannot express how proud we are of the teachers, counselors, administrators, food personnel, and custodians who have worked so cohesively with the determination to ensure that the goals of student-centered learning are front and center during this time. We stood up websites such as distancelearning.dadeschools.net to house tutorials, resources, and guides, a one-stop shop, if you will, for educators, parents, and students. Understanding that communication is essential to online learning, standing up these websites that can be referenced by each of these stakeholders, provide information on Microsoft Teams and our platform of choice, and Zoom, a cloud-based video conferencing solution that teachers flocked to early on, became paramount. To give you an idea of scope and the speed in which the district was moving prior to school closures and being a Microsoft district, there were approximately 18,000 users on MS Teams. To date, that number exceeds 240,000. Additionally, the district purchased the enterprise version of Zoom to protect its teachers and students, as the free version does not provide for user authentication via credentials and single sign-on. Today, students and teachers access Zoom through Microsoft Teams, providing another layer of security from online predators. This integration not only provides teachers with the important ability to see their students and be seen by them and their families, but it also provides doing so in a protected environment. Because Microsoft Teams is populated internally with student and staff data rosters, teachers can confirm that they are talking to their intended audience and protect students and their information from outsiders. It also allows teachers to keep participants in waiting rooms before allowing them into their virtual classrooms. Just like in traditional classrooms, student engagement increases when students are required to respond to questions verbally or in writing. Teachers can observe their responses, and teachers can provide quick, specific, and corrective feedback. Zoom conferencing integration allows teachers to schedule and launch Zoom meetings from within Teams and allows them to access a host of applications within the Teams platform itself in delivering their lessons. Without the luxury of an LMS, Microsoft Teams has proven to be invaluable as it provides rostering of students, the ability to assign work assignments, the sharing of files, grading and feedback on student work, and the scheduling of asynchronous lessons or meetings. Teachers are frequently commenting on how this tool will remain one of choice long after they return to their brick-and-mortar classrooms. Another tool that was provided to teachers at the onset of school closures was Google Voice. This free application provides teachers a proxy phone number for calling, text messaging, and voicemail. Google Voice has helped teachers, students, and guardians stay in touch with one another without having to use or share their personal cell phone number. It works on smartphones and computers and syncs across devices. Teachers love it. Recognizing that school closures were going to be longer than originally anticipated, on April 3rd, Miami-Dade published ICP 2.0. While the original ICP provided teachers the same flexibility, ICP 2.0 provided clearer guidance to teachers and parents regarding the resources available to them. As they had done in their classrooms, teachers had the choice and flexibility to deliver content to students through the district-provided digital resources, with teacher direction to focus on specific skills instruction, or through teacher-identified and vetted resources, or through a combination of both. We realized that with a teacher core of 20,000, we were going to have teachers on a broad spectrum when it came to distance learning, and we wanted to be able to support our teachers wherever they were on that continuum. Some teachers who were farther along in that spectrum chose to create their own lessons via collaboration and communication tools such as Microsoft Teams, Edmodo, ClassDojo, and recorded their lessons or provided synchronous live lessons to their students. Others chose to use more of an online instructional model where teachers assign self-paced, personalized practice to students on district-licensed online content resources such as Ingenuity, iReady, and Gizmos. Yet other teachers had a hybrid approach where they would switch back and forth from teacher-directed instruction to self-paced digital content as their learning progressed. Initially, while we ensured that teachers became comfortable with the tools at their disposal and recognizing that they too were learning, we enrolled all students in fully digital, high-quality aligned curricula. Even though we believed that we had partnered with the best in the field to provide our students and teachers with top-quality digital content, we also believed wholeheartedly that the impact of highly effective teachers and their interactions with students on academic and interpersonal activities cannot be outdone by adaptive technology. And so, during phase 2 of distance learning, we sought to help individual teachers design their own instructional continuity plans and giving them the autonomy they deserved as professionals in designing for virtual instruction. So naturally, we turned our attention to design thinking, a practice that had been pivotal in our middle school redesign efforts. Design thinking is a problem-solving methodology that we have been using in MDCPS. We have found design thinking to be a powerful way to come up with, quote, out-of-the-box solutions while tapping into the brain power of the entire school staff. Design thinking allows each teacher in school to come up with personalized solutions that are best suited for the needs of their children. We've charged teachers to explore the realities of distance learning while asking them to analyze their plan, approach, and implementation to instructional continuity and use design thinking to understand, explore, and materialize solutions that best meet the needs of the students they serve. Design thinking, at its core, walks the designer, in this case, the teacher, through a series of steps in order to create the best experience for its customers, in this case, their students. Let's take a deeper dive. As we navigated these uncharted waters of distance learning, we asked teachers to empathize, to understand that there are many factors present at home that can impact a student's ability to concentrate and complete assignments that may not exist in school. Factors such as extensive screen time, lack of internet access, distractions, access to materials. In a remote learning environment, most of the assignments that teachers are providing to students require computer screen time. This is a major shift from the traditional classroom. We ask teachers to be mindful that students of all ages, especially elementary students, cannot sit in front of a computer for hours on end, completely engaged. Screen time needed to be assigned in manageable chunks in order to get the most return on this time from students. We recognized early on that instructional time in general is different than in our face-to-face school day. It is not possible to cover all of the lessons that would be traditionally taught during the school year. This was one of the hardest things to come to grip with when we shifted to remote learning. We could not expect students to be participating in digital classrooms for 6 or more hours as they would in a traditional school setting. Therefore, teachers had to be selective of what content and assignments would result in the highest return on investment, which standards were prerequisites for the subsequent school year, which were absolutely essential to future learning. Another aspect of this stage of design thinking, empathizing, is understanding that even though more than 115,000 devices were distributed to students, students' access to technology and internet speeds may differ. Additionally, parents' ability to provide materials for projects and printouts of activities may be limited due to access, self-quarantine scenarios, or caring for themselves or a loved one with the virus. Teachers were reminded frequently that parents are not trained educators, may also be juggling work responsibilities, providing care for multiple students, or not be fluent in English. Parents didn't sign up to homeschool their children. We know that keeping students engaged is an art and a science. At home, students are dealing with a variety of distractions, everything from the family pet to a sibling who is working within close proximity. One of the most important things we ask teachers to do, and this is something we have routinely done even in more stable times, is to be sympathetic and understanding of our students' situations at home. In design thinking, the define stage refers to defining the specific problem or problems we are solving for. With most big goals and tasks, it is often easier to tackle one facet of the issue at a time. Using the design thinking process, we pose these issues in how might we statements to set this landscape for strategizing potential solutions. As teachers plan for distance learning, they began to ask themselves, how might I plan distance learning lessons that prepare and engage students, knowing that the variables of time and support have been adjusted? How might we as teachers transition our role and responsibilities to that of a remote classroom teacher? These two overarching how might we statements provide a launchpad for the next phase of design thinking. That's ideation. In the explore phase of design thinking, educators are asked to ideate. Ideation or brainstorming allows us to explore potential solutions to even the most complex of problems. Ideally, in school, departments or grade level teams would collaborate and communicate to produce as many ideas and solutions as possible to create individual school site and classroom specific plans for distance learning. In order to help teachers in this process, we shared research proven best practices to jumpstart their own personal ideation sessions, and we encourage them to use collaboration tools, which we'll explore later. In order to materialize a distance learning plan, prototyping is essential. Prototyping is getting ideas and exploration out of your head and into the physical world. A prototype can take the form of a wall full of Post-it notes, a role-playing scenario, or even a storyboard. Teachers are no strangers to prototyping. Lesson plans, after all, are a prototype and guide for directing a teacher regarding what students need to learn, how it will be taught, and how learning will be measured. You are now taking lesson planning to a deeper level, we told our teachers, as they had to plan for an environment that they would not always be present in to provide guidance, feedback, and support for their students. Just like the daily lesson plans, teachers know that sometimes the best planned lessons don't always go according to plan, and they don't always result in student proficiency and engagement. Requires teachers to rethink, reteach, and refine given new information and data. Their previous distance learning plans would most likely also need to be tweaked given new information regarding time, best practices, and areas to be more empathetic. Like the revision of the ICP 1.0 to 2.0, prototypes are refined as new information becomes available. They are more refined versions of their predecessors. Teachers were encouraged and are continued to be encouraged to prototype as many times as needed and to communicate their revised plan to students, their families, and their school administration. They are frequently reminded that they're not alone and to return to icp.dadeschools.net and distancelearning.dadeschools.net, as well as call the help desk or request support from district staff. There would be no punitive measures as performance evaluations were discarded and all observations are formative in order to support teachers and consequently support their students. This risk-free environment frequently spurs innovation, and we have seen boundless examples of the fruits of that innovation. For several years now, in our efforts at social-emotional learning, we had teachers coach students through developing a growth mindset. Now we were asking teachers to practice what they preached. We encourage teachers to abandon fixed mindsets and approach these and other adversities with a growth mindset, knowing that even if something doesn't go perfectly according to plan, it doesn't mean we should not adjust. Remember, ideate and prototype and try again. We must reflect to evaluate what went well, what doesn't go well, and what needs to be improved upon. We encourage teachers and leaders to seek continuous improvement for students and for themselves, and to lean upon each other in order to continue to push towards the goal of giving students a high-quality education in and out of the schoolhouse. We observe best practices and highlight them across the organization, and we encourage teachers to use platforms like Microsoft Teams and Facebook Workplace to do so as well. During professional development, we highlighted those best practices that have proven to be effective in communication and collaboration with students and families. Feedback from students and families show that they respond very well academically and socially, emotionally to face-to-face meetings. Distancelearning.dadeschools.net has webinars and tutorials on how to use Microsoft Teams to enhance these face-to-face opportunities, albeit virtually. Parents and students have also been directed to email their teachers if they have questions or require additional information. We have asked, to the best of their abilities, that teachers answer emails within 24 hours. Yet, when it comes to delivering virtual instruction, don't underestimate the power of the simplest solutions. For example, teacher-to-teacher student phone calls, maybe using Google Voice. The Post-its on this slide include some specific best practices in distance learning pedagogy that have been shown to prove and provide high yield results. These were shared with teachers. Some of these include teachers highlighting the previous week's content and introducing what's coming early in the week before students are assigned lessons. engaging students by asking questions and responding to questions using discussion boards, providing weekly videos from teachers, allowing students to connect with the teacher's image and voice, posting assignments a week in advance or for an entire week to provide as much flexibility as possible for students to complete, conducting office hours, as teachers can provide real-time feedback and web conferencing to students, to name a few. We asked teachers to design, and design they did. Today, we love seeing what our teachers are up to online. They have exceeded our expectations in developing fun, interactive lessons that lift children's spirits, keep them engaged, and provide for the continuity of learning. They love to share with one another on Workplace by Facebook, a secure internal social media platform that allows them to follow role-alike teachers across the entire district, virtually opening their classroom door to one another. They're using games, developing virtual routines that allow for mental wellness check-ins. Even guidance counselors are providing online group and individual sessions ranging from dealing with anxiety to college planning. We have seen teachers utilizing virtual reality to learn about the heart and tips for parents on everyday strategies that they can employ at home to keep them developing social and fine motor skills. Teachers reading bedtime stories at all hours of the day and night and conducting data chats with their students. Teachers designing virtual Bitmojis and virtual Bitmoji classroom scenes that enable them to flip their classrooms while providing engaging animation to their students. And we've seen school administrators broadcasting their morning and afternoon announcements online. Virtual field trips have become more prevalent in the school experience as students visit the zoo, national parks, museums, and performing arts centers, all from the safety and comfort of their home. Among the methods we're employing to highlight best practices is the launch of a YouTube channel in which we pop into a virtual lesson and then subsequently interview the teacher to learn how he or she approaches lesson design, what tools they use, and what they've learned throughout this journey. We post the videos on social media in an effort to both celebrate and inspire new ways of delivering lessons. In supporting teachers, we urge them to always design for distance learning with the goals of preparing students for next year, filling gaps, and continuing to differentiate instruction in this new ecosystem to provide a sense of community and normalcy for our students, an essential component in their overall wellness. It is our intention that they find the relevance of brainstorming and prototyping ideas that is not only centered around, but hinges on empathy for students, families, colleagues, one another, and the community at large. The actions that we take today and through the summer will set the stage for a return to the schoolhouse that will likely be an evolution of teaching and learning, the likes of which we have never seen. Thank you for participating in supporting teachers through distance learning. I look forward to taking your questions. I hope you enjoyed that webinar. I think that as I think about everything that we've done for our teachers in Miami-Dade, I think there's a couple of just nuggets of learning that we have gotten from this experience, and I'm sure we all have some of those. And a couple of them that I'd like to share with you are, number one, just having an emergency plan for distance learning for any emergency. Most of us, none of us really could predict what has occurred across the globe. And I think that a lot of us scrambled to get things done and to stand things up, and hopefully once this global pandemic is over and once we're back in brick and mortar and whatever that ideation of brick and mortar looks like, that we just don't shelve these plans, but that we actually develop really comprehensive plans to utilize in the event of school closures in the future. And I think that they're inevitable. In addition to that, just looking at how we're going to support our teachers during distance learning when parents are choosing or perhaps opting not to send their students, their children rather, back to the schoolhouse, and learning from the lessons from this event to move that forward. Also, engaging our union leadership was extremely important for us. Very, very early on, having conversations at the highest levels. I met with the union president and leaders of her cabinet, just to ensure that we were on the same page in terms of expectations and how we would support teachers. I think that's really important. And then for us, I'm sure that you could tell by the webinar that we had some really early investments that truly paid off. We didn't have digital convergence as an initiative because we were planning 6 years down the road to be confronted with a global pandemic. We did it because we knew that providing technology to drive instruction and integrating technology in lessons was a 21st century skill that students needed to acquire, that we needed to get teachers comfortable with technology, that if we were going to prepare students for the workforce, that was certainly a mode or a modality that we wanted to utilize. And our North Star at the time was 1-to-1, to get one computer for every child. We didn't quite make that. We got to about 3-to-1 district-wide, and then 2-to-1 in our most fragile schools in our urban core. And then we kind of reassessed, and we really didn't continue to push dramatically the continued increase or the lowering of those ratios, computers to students. We started shifting our attention way pre-pandemic to having teachers really understand how to utilize it and how to take their lessons to the next level. So we started doing a lot of work around SAMR and the SAMR model, and getting teachers from substitution to actually utilizing technology for students to create new knowledge. And so that shift allowed us to kind of raise the caliber of usage of instructional technology in our classrooms, the proficiency of our teachers. We're not where we want to be. We're a very large school district, but it certainly laid a really good foundation. So early and thoughtful investments absolutely pay off, even when no one saw what was coming in the horizon. And we like to use the term rigidly flexible. I tend to be rigidly flexible. And during this crisis, for us, we made early decisions that if we wouldn't have stuck by them, would have created a lot of inconsistency and lack of coherence and confusion in homes and in classrooms, virtual classrooms. And so we stuck to our guns. For the example that I can give you is having teachers select their own platforms that they were already utilizing with students and families to communicate, so that we wouldn't disrupt those channels of communication. And we got some pushback, right? Parents were really uncomfortable. They had multiple children at home. They had to go to different platforms or websites to access information or access assignments. And we stuck to our guns, but we stuck to our guns and continued to provide support and continued to attract teachers without forcing them to our platform of choice, which was Microsoft Teams. And we went from 18,000 users to 240,000 users by incentivizing, attracting, and supporting teachers to that trough instead of forcing them. And in the meantime, we bought families and teachers time to develop those and to shift adequately into those new pipelines, if for lack of a better word, of communication, rather than severing the pipelines that existed right around closure. So I think that being rigidly flexible is something that paid off for us. The other thing that I didn't mention was as much is really differentiating the support for instructional personnel. We say teachers, and we use this generic term teachers, but truly being able to address the needs of different types of instructional personnel. So we had training for our curriculum support specialists, for our instructional supervisors, the folks that are developing content, to support them. Open sequences for teachers. We had special training for our coaches, because the coaches were no longer in brick and mortar. They were providing virtual support to our teachers. We provided very specific training for our teachers by subject area, obviously, and by grade band, but also for teachers that support English language learners or students with disabilities. We had about, I want to say I have it written down, 3,500 teachers that participated in 19 sessions just on providing accommodations for students with disabilities. So very specific targeted PD for specific targeted groups of individuals. And then the notion of using design thinking it's very tempting for us, and particularly in large districts where we have staff at the central office, to really top down, cookie cutter, create templates that are very rigid in terms of what that learning experience or that student lesson looks like, or teacher lesson looks like. We didn't want to do that. What we wanted to do was we wanted to develop a framework or a way of thinking for our teachers, a process that they could go through where we were teaching them to fish, right? So we were helping them develop their own instructional continuity plans because they know their students and their families best. And we chose to use design thinking to do that. And supporting families, lastly, it was very important to us. And that's not a separate bucket. We don't have a separate webinar on supporting families. We could, but supporting families is supporting teachers. So helping families find resources, providing webinars to families on the Parent Academy, Miami.org for us was really important. And that support that we provided our families turnkeyed into supporting our teachers because they had more engagement of students, more engagement of families, and really were on the same page with one another. So I'm going to try to look at your questions now and see what's coming up in the chat. I welcome questions. If I don't know the answer, I can point you in the right direction. But while I look at that and put my glasses on, I will tell you that a lot of the resources that I shared with you today are available on two websites primarily. One is distancelearning.dadeschools.net. There we have all of the resources kind of bucketed, like a one-stop shop for educators, for families, and for students related to our emergency closure of schools and our distance learning measures. So I urge you to go to distancelearning.dadeschools.net. You can bring down any kind of tool and look and see what our strategy was. I will warn you that, or I will tell you that that website wasn't as sexy as it is right now. We were putting stuff just on websites, I'm sure all of you were as well, that was just, putting up, uploading documents. And then finally, when we were able to take a little bit of a deep breath, we started redesigning them so they were more user-friendly and people could find stuff. And then the other website is icp.dadeschools.net. That's instructional continuity plan, icp.dadeschools.net. And actually the entire plan is downloadable as well as all of the resources. That's a separate webinar that I'm going to be doing today. All right, so I see in the chat that folks like when the term rigidly flexible. I actually stole it from someone. I can't remember who, but I've adopted that mantra. Did you offer any virtual training for parents? This is from Kara Floodman. I hope I said that right. Or just the one-stop shop you mentioned? No, actually, if you visit the Parent Academy Miami, I want to make sure it's not, I'm saying the right extension. It's either .org or .com. I forget because I have it saved on my computer, but let me tell you what it is right now. It's parentacademymiami.com. That's parentacademymiami.com. And maybe Kelly can put it in the chat for me. At that website, you'll see it's like our parent university. And there we were doing a clip of about maybe 1 to 2 webinars a week that we were developing. A lot of them we developed ourselves. Some of them we developed with partners. So we elicited the assistance of a university. The University of Miami helped us a bit, Florida International University, and other partners that are content experts, right? So webinars under Virtual Campus. So if you go to that website and you click on Virtual Campus, you'll find topics related to supporting your student that has an exceptionality, helping your child cope during a time of crisis or anxiety. What is the instructional continuity plan, and how does what's the parent's role in it? How to navigate our platform of choice, Microsoft Teams, online safety, cybersecurity, all of those kind of topics. And that became very important to us. That's a team of 3 people that were doing this work. So they were really good and very resourceful about finding partners, but they basically recorded PowerPoint slides, did voiceovers, and provided, in my opinion, some pretty high quality parent webinars. Also, we used our communication shop to translate them. And so they're available in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. And you're welcome to use any of those webinars for your own student populations or for your families. So that's that question. Let's see. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, large districts are interesting. Large districts are They have a lot of resources in comparison, although you'd be surprised, but in comparison to small and rural districts, but they're also a very heavy lifts. So for us, making sure that we were using one voice is very important when you're working in a large district. That at one point for teachers, like I typically, because my district is so large and we have 20,000 teachers, I typically don't communicate directly with teachers. Like I don't send a census or a mass email to all teachers. We have systems to do that. We have what we call briefings that do that. And it has like a hierarchy that you need to go through in terms of communicating that out. And when the crisis hit, the superintendent of schools was he understood very well that we needed to be doing things on the fly, and that large districts, which are typically very bureaucratic and have a lot of protocols and lines of reporting lines, that we needed to cut the time that it was taking to communicate out to the field, whether it was principals or parents or teachers in particular. So I created a dummy email. It was OAT, which is my bureau, OAT@dadeschools.net. And I would communicate. They didn't know they were talking to me, but I was communicating and putting a weekly update. So every week, the week of April 6th, the week of March 13th, the week of March 30th, and the week of April 6th, I was pushing out like a 1-pager, a 2-pager that had kind of expectations and directions and also accolades and affirmations for our teachers. But it was that one voice that's really important in supporting a very large school district, because otherwise you can get a little bit of dissonance and cacophony going on. So Lisa Poems writes, what did you do for the students that did not have computers or internet service? That's another webinar. Hopefully you can join me today. That's the ICP, and developing an instructional continuity plan, but I'll be happy to answer your question. We did a survey the week of March 6th. We had it ready the week of March 9th. We had it ready March 6th. And that very short, the survey itself is in our ICP, I believe, so you can see those questions. I want to say it was 6 or 7 questions. And primarily we wanted to know 2 things. We wanted to know how many students were out there that did not have their own computer or access to a computer at home, and how many did not have internet connectivity. And so we received, in a matter of a week, so from March 9th through March 13th, we received 208,000 responses. And then we still weren't closed. That was that week leading up to closures. We utilized that data to kind of stage ourselves and prepare for distribution. We still didn't know on March 9th that we would be closing. But as we started gathering this data, we started moving devices from one school to another, because we have a very good, thankfully, which is another lesson learned, a very good inventory or asset management system. And so that asset management system from our perch at the district level allows us to see where the machines are and if they're operational, if they're connected to the network, et cetera. So we started shifting machines around, getting them ready for distribution. We just started distributing we decided to let them go home with students on March 13th, the actual day of school closures. I want to say, that's on my other webinar, but I want to say the students walked out with about 32,000 devices that day. So we made an announcement, March 13th, schools are closed, effective Monday. And that day, 32,000 students went home with, among other things, went home with their computers. And then we had around, I want to say the number was 20,000 students indicating that they didn't have internet connectivity at home. That's a whole other webinar, but to explain the details of that. But we've been able to provide 9,000 mobile hotspots through partnerships that we have, one of them with Sprint, the other one with Verizon, and also working with our local internet provider to really bring down the costs of the internet for our families in need, or provide it free of charge. So right now, so you can get an idea of how we were able to kind of close that gap, we have distributed more than 115,000 devices and around 9,000 mobile hotspots in our district. And we have around, on any given day, around 91% attendance on our distance learning platform. So we have a pretty critical mass of students that are participating thanks to these efforts. All right. Matthew, how did you decide what to standardize and when to give schools and teachers discretion? Well, I think I kind of answered that question in that We standardized like expectations, right? We also standardized all of the professional development, and we also standardized the curriculum itself, which is another webinar that I'm doing today. And that is the instructional continuity plan. You can see some of that in there. If you go to icp.dayschools.net, Matthew, and you will be able to see our ICPGs, which is a narrowing of the curriculum. So we decided what standards were most essential for the subsequent school year, and we developed, for lack of a better word, scope and sequences for the teachers to follow. That is standardized. So the content and what is being covered is always non-negotiable. The way the teachers choose to present the lessons, that's the art of teaching. And I think I have time for one more. Kelly, do I have time for one more?
Yeah, we can take one more.
Okay, so how did you maintain the integrity of assessments? That's from Jimmy. So the answer to that is we don't. None of us do. And if anyone tells you that they're maintaining the integrity of assessments, I'd say I'd like to meet that person. So we do have formative assessments that we provide students and administer to students to check progress towards goal. We know that those assessments are inflated. Right now, we're not gonna be obsessing about that at this moment. We wanna make sure that our students are being assessed by our teachers, that they're doing the best they can to provide them feedback in the form of grading. And when we come back to brick and mortar, then we'll concern ourselves again with the integrity of assessments. Right now, we just wanna keep kids engaged. We wanna keep kids learning. We want to make sure that they're seeing someone that they're accustomed to seeing on a regular basis, which is their classroom teacher or teachers, and that we give them the sense of comfort and normalcy that they deserve and prepare them as best we can to mitigate the widening of the achievement gap in the fall. The last, Jeremy wrote, what is the ICP link? The ICP link is icp.dadeschools.net, and I'll ask Kelly, who's my right hand over there, to see if she can provide that link on our chat. And if you have any other questions, I'm sure that you can reach me. I ask, you can follow me at Miami CAO. That's at, I'll try to do this for you guys. Let's see, no, you're not panelists. You are attendees. So my Twitter handle is at Miami CAO, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you send me via DM, and follow me on Twitter. It's great talking to you all.
Thank you so much, Marie. On behalf of the entire team at Tech and Learning, thank you everyone for attending today's session. Again, a special thank you to all of our sponsors that make this event possible: Catch On, Classcraft, FileWave, Global Teletherapy, GradeCam, Sanford Programs, and thank you again to all of our association partners. Again, I want to remind everyone there is on the Conference Hub a chat with the speakers. So if you have any questions you want to put in that chat, we'll make sure that those get over to the speakers. So if your questions weren't answered today, just go on over to the Conference Hub. And also a reminder that there is the Passport to Prizes. So feel free to go through the hub and enter those Passport to Prizes. We're going to take a quick break. The next session will start at 10 a.m. Again, all of your sessions are on the Conference Hub with links to join. If you're not part of this track, you'll see all of your sessions available there. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you at the next session. Thanks, Marie.